Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and welcome to another midweek pondering video. So this week's ponderous topic is how to sell your gold and silver. Now I've come up with 5 top tips which I want to share with you guys that I use pretty much all the time when I'm selling my gold and silver, and my hand poured silver as well. Now just a quick reminder and disclaimer before I jump into all of those, I am not a financial planner, I am not an investment guru. These are only my thoughts and opinions on how to sell your gold and silver. So any decisions that you make from this, they need to be yours and yours alone, because this is not financial advice. Now, disclaimer out the way, once again I've got some cool gold and silver stuff on the table here to share with you guys. Some of these are actually for sale at the moment, so I thought they'd be really cool to share with you guys as we go along talking about my 5 top tips to sell your gold and silver. So without further ado, let's jump into top tip number 1. Okay, so top tip number 1 is research, research and research some more. I can't quite stress how important doing some research is before you actually look to sell your coins or your bullion or whatever it might be. Knowing about your coin, knowing about your bullion is just so invaluable. It'll help you understand how much it's worth, where you should be looking to sell it, and you know, sets your expectations, and just it's just invaluable to do. You know, if you knew nothing about coins, perhaps if you had inherited some or you'd found them in an attic somewhere or something, you know, you might think this Krugerrand is it's God's gift to numismatics, and it's going to be a, you know, incredibly valuable coin. Rare collectible. A little bit of research will tell you that it's not. It's just basically going to be, you know, a standard bullion coin. Whereas something like the Santa Maria ship coin, the nautical ounce, that is a collector's coin. That's got a very limited mintage. So, you know, finding out things like the mintages are really important. And there's so many different resources out there that you can look to find these things. You know, you can go on to you know, you go on to basically just Google searches and you can find bullion websites, you can find where the coins were made from, you know, originally, like this. You can just go onto the Royal Mint and you can find out what the mintages are for these proof unicorns, things like that. You know, there's just a whole load of different things. Also, you know, proof coins, you can go onto the NGC population reports websites and find you know, the different population reports for these things. Whole host of different research that you can find. And all of that will really help as well, because you should be able to find a lot of different examples of those coins being sold. Of course, if it's an incredibly rare coin or an incredibly valuable coin, there might not be that many you know, items for sale, but it will at least give you a really good indication of what things have been selling for. And I think that's really important as well for things like this, these shield-backed sovereigns. So, you know, gold sovereigns, they are very well recognised, and shield-backed sovereigns carry a little bit of a premium above regular sovereigns. So, you know, definitely worth finding out about that, finding out what different years are worth. You know, that might well be special years. You could buy different coin books which will show you all about the different you know, basically values of different years and different mint marks and things like that. So definitely worth doing your research on all of that. And the goal of your research, I think it's very important to kind of put that in perspective. So the goal of your research is to find all of the answers so that you can get the most exposure for the most appropriate marketplace for that coin. You know, there is no point in trying to sell, you know, this Krugerrand, for example, there's no point in trying to sell it at a specialist collectible numismatics auction house, you know, going under the hammer in real time, in real life. There's just no point, because people won't be paying a premium on it. However, if you've got a very, very valuable, rare shield-backed sovereign with a, you know, mint condition with a special mint mark, etc., that's worth a couple of £1,000 perhaps, then yeah, a specialist numismatic coin auction might well be the best place for that to be. So with all of the research that you've done, hopefully that'll lead you on to point number 2. So the second top tip is choosing where to sell. Now, it will kind of depend a little bit on your research, obviously, but there'll also be another factor which we haven't talked about yet, and that is your own circumstances, your own situation. You know, if it's an emergency situation, you need to release some funds very quickly, then there's a good chance that you'll probably be looking to sell this you know, very quickly to a bullion dealer perhaps, and you've got to take that into consideration. You know, if you've got something very, very simple like the Krugerrand that I showed, then you'll probably just be able to get spot value, you know, probably 95%, 98% of spot, depending where you sell it. You can sell to online bullion dealers quite easily these days. After postage, you probably end up with about 95, 96% of spot. However, if you've got something like this nautical ounce and you just took it to a bullion dealer, you're probably just going to get spot for it. Certainly if you go to like a high street We Buy Any Gold place, they're just going to give you spot value for it, you know, maybe 95% again. So you're going to lose out a lot on premiums, and especially if you've bought this at a premium, you're going to lose out. So finding the right place to sell them is important, but it's also going to depend on your circumstances. So there are a load of other places that you can look to sell these types of things. So forums are a great resource. You know, Metals Mafia, Silver Forum, fantastic resources that you should go on. And you should definitely go on there and start building up reputation. And we'll talk about reputation in a little bit because it's really, really important. You know, I think private sales through social media are really valuable as well. You know, obviously people like me who've got a YouTube channel can put something up for sale on a YouTube channel and reach quite a lot of people. But, you know, going on Instagram, going on Facebook, going on Reddit, all of the other places, and you can look to sell something on there. You can do that, and it's certainly something that people do. But just be careful, and we'll talk about being careful a little bit later as well. The last place to talk about is eBay, the dreaded bay. You know, a lot of people don't like buying and selling on eBay. Obviously, selling on eBay can be quite expensive. You can get quite significant costs in there, like 10% from seller's fees plus PayPal fees. You know, you often lose roughly 15% of what you're selling. But at the same time, it can be a really valuable resource, and I'll show you exactly why. So these gold sovereigns, I've shown some of these before, and I'm selling these through eBay. Now, these were inherited by a family member who has decided that she wants to sell them. So we have taken custody of them to sell them for her on her behalf. And we've decided to put them basically up on eBay as auctions. Doing a little bit of research, like in point number 1, I found that the shieldback sovereigns, they do carry a premium, and basically on eBay they go for quite good money. You know, you get a lot of people on there who are constantly scouring for deals, constantly looking for nice examples of different sovereigns, and you know, it can be a fantastic place to do it. One great way to mitigate all of those horrible fees is to wait for seller's fees. So we're not in a rush, and again, this is all about circumstances. We're not in a rush. We've managed to get an eBay seller's fee offer, so these are now up on auction. By the way, if you guys are interested in them and would like to try and bid on them, then please do go check them out. I'll put links to each of the items in the description below. But they're 10-day auctions, and you know, they're going to end on a Thursday night. And I'll talk a little bit about you know, listing your items and how you can get the most exposure on them in the next point, which is quite convenient because that brings me on to point number 3. Okay, so top tip number 3 is listing your item. Now this is really important, following on from what I was saying about the sovereigns there and listing them on eBay. Take good photos. That's the first lesson I think is really important. Now, you guys probably know me. You know, I've seen quite a lot of the photos that I do. I love taking photos, and you know, I've learned a lot about photography in the last year and a half from taking lots of photos of coins and things. But you know, lots of smartphones can take really great photos. Take close-up photos. Take lots of photos from different angles as well. It really does help kind of, you know, show off the coin in all its glory. It also helps describe it accurately, you know, and that's another important thing. In the listing description, always describe it accurately for what it is. You know, describe the condition. If there is a little blemish on the coin, or if there's something there that you're not quite sure about, you know, mention it to a seller. If there's a big defect on a coin, it'll be more likely that the buyers will be wanting to do that because they will notice it straight away. They'll make their decision whether or not they want to take that into consideration, and they'll go from there. It'll also help mitigate any potential disappointment down the line if a buyer buys something and you know, it comes and it's damaged and they didn't know or didn't see. There's just a little bit less bad blood. So definitely try to list it properly. You know, set out your terms in the auction basically, or if you're going on a private sale like a forum, or if you're going on a social media, then try and set out your terms as early as possible. I think that's a really important thing to do. You know, look about how you want to get paid. Look about what, you know, the delivery and postage costs are going to be, and what the methods are going to be as well, and put those up front, and just be open and honest about them basically. You know, and then we're talking about listing the item. Set a price which is fair. So you hopefully will have found prices that come up through various research that you've done. Now, if you're going on eBay auction, obviously you don't need to set a price, it just goes as it is. But if you're doing a buy it now on eBay, you know, you can often look to put, you know, 5–10% extra from perhaps where you would be on like a forum or social media, because a lot of buyers understand that you know, you often have to pay the eBay fees, and things tend to be a little bit more valuable. It tends to go for a little bit more money on eBay. But put a fair, you know, offer on there. There's no point in putting something like £2,000 for something that you hope to get 1,500 quid for. You know, you're just not going to sell it. And often with eBay, you'll be charged for putting up something with a buy it now price if that's significantly high number, or if you put a reserve on an auction item, for example, it'll charge you, and if it doesn't get sold, then you just lose out basically. So yeah, it's really important. Now, other couple of top tips: if you are looking to sell on forums, for example, listing the item with decent photos is really important. But if you have something unique that you can put in the photo that basically says that it's real, and it's not just something you've grabbed off Google Images, then that's great as well. So put a little piece of paper with your name on it. You know, for me, it's quite easy because my table is now almost like my brand. People recognise the table, so like on the forums and stuff, I don't really have to put something with my name and date on it because people recognise the table and they'll know that the table is me and it's real and I've taken the photo. But you know, small things like that can really help a lot of confidence in a buyer as well, and I think that's a really important thing. You know, reputation I talked a little bit on earlier. I think reputation is probably one of the most important things about you know, using social media, using forums to sell things, even eBay, and it's really important to have that reputation in place. And if you're a new seller, there are lots of different things that you can actually put in place to actually basically mitigate some of those worries from other people. So like I said, putting your name in the photograph is great. You know, if, for example, you are a new seller on a forum, it might be an idea to consider that you would want to send your items out to somebody, let them inspect them. If they're genuine, then they pay you. But obviously it's going to be very dependent on who the buyer is. You know, if you're going to do that, you're going to need to make sure that they're somebody with a very big social media presence, you know, big reputation, like someone like me, or you know, somebody like Noomstacker or something on the forum, if they were happy to do something like that, or if they were interested in an item. So set out those kind of terms and conditions very early on, and understand that as a new seller, you are going to be attracting some you know, negative views, and that's not anything personal. It's just often because, you know, we have to be wary, basically. So yeah, that's how I suggest that you go about basically listing your items. So that brings us on neatly to point number 4, which is after you've sold it, we're talking about payment. So tip number 4 is all about payment. So obviously, if you're selling through eBay, you're going to have some various fees to pay, whether that's the 10% eBay fee or if you've got final seller's fees. But you're also going to have to pay PayPal fees, which, you know, is often like, I think it's like 3.4%. But there's a little bit obviously extra. I think it's like 20p extra per item and things like that. So, you know, you've got to consider all of those things into everything as well. Now, if you're selling it privately, you can think about doing things like PayPal friends and family or a bank's transfer. But you've got to remember that that those methods don't give any protection to the buyer. So sometimes, especially if you're a new seller, those types of arrangements might be quite, you know, wary for buyers to engage in, especially if you're a new seller with no reputation. You know, the peace of mind of having that kind of buyer protection, I think, is really important for some people, and it makes the difference between whether or not they would actually look to buy something or not. So definitely consider those things. It might well be worth offering kind of like PayPal goods and services, for example, which whilst it might cost you 3-4% more, it'll give the buyers a lot more confidence, and they'll be able to actually you know, buy it with a bit more confidence, basically knowing that it'd be protected if anything was to go missing, or if it was to, you know, if it turns out that not that you would, because hopefully when you're selling these, it wouldn't be, you know, you're not going to be selling something which is fake or selling something that you wouldn't actually post out. So feedback, reputation, that's something that I've touched on already, but it's something that's really important. You know, if you are a seller that you're looking to sell something and you're selling something and a buyer comes along with 0 feedback, and it's happened to me before as well through eBay. So I've sold a couple of really high ticket items, some collectible gold coins on eBay, and you know, it's not this coin, but something like this coin. Let's say if I sold this on eBay, and you know, a brand new buyer was to come along and make an offer or buy it, then obviously I've got things to consider. If they've got 0 reputation, 0 feedback, you know, I'm thinking, well, if I send this off to them and they say they don't get it, or if I send this off to them and they say it's fake, or they, you know, just, I don't know, they try and do a swindle, they can claim it back. Maybe not with gold now on eBay. I know there's some different rules on that, but just anything basically, it could be quite a problem for me. Now, I have had people with 0 feedback buy some of these high ticket items before, and I've had it go one of 2 ways. And the first way, so when I had this guy buy this item off me, I contacted him straight away and said, thank you very much for purchasing. I notice you're a brand new user with 0 feedback. Happy to sell the coin to you, but I would request that you send me a check or pay by bank transfer rather than through PayPal. Now, if they're a genuine buyer, which this guy was, then really there shouldn't be any issues around that. So the guy got in touch, said that's absolutely fine. He posted me a check, I cashed it, it cleared, and I sent it out to him, and it was all good. And he's now got feedback on eBay, and that's great. However, there have been situations where people have bought something from you, very high ticket gold items perhaps. They're expecting you to send it out straight away. They pay straight away by PayPal. I will then refund the payment and say, sorry, you're brand new. Can I please have it by bank transfer or check? And you never hear anything from them, or they then just close their account and run away. So there's obviously a difference there between a genuine buyer and somebody who's there just to kind of fleece you, basically. So just be wary of them, but be polite about it. Just mention in there that the reasons you're doing it is because you're a new buyer. There's no hard feelings. It really is just simply the fact that you are new and you need to protect yourself as a seller. And I think that's really, really important as well. So once it's all sold, that brings us on to the last top tip, which is all about postage and delivery. So top tip number 5 is all about postage and delivery. So once you've sold your item and everything is all done and dusted, money's in the bank account, and you're ready to post it out, posting it is a really important part, and it's one that can really help mitigate issues down the line as well. My advice, and if you've bought some of my hand pour silver or even some of my coins in the past, you'll know that I wrap things incredibly well, basically I just go a little bit overboard perhaps, but I think it's really important to wrap things well. If it's a coin, especially if it's a numismatic collectible type coin, you don't want it rolling around in the envelope. It's going to get damaged. But also, if it's just rolling around loose in an envelope, it's going to be very easy to work out kind of what it is, that it is a coin, and that's just going to add suspicion to people who are handling it and wanting to perhaps kind of look to five-finger discount and just take it off your hands. So that's a really important thing. Wrap it well, make sure that it's secure in its parcel. My advice as well is to actually wrap the outside of the parcel as well. So I use like pre-made boxes, so I just get these boxes, and they actually work out dirt cheap. They work out at about, I think it's like 8p or 12p I think it is per box, which is obviously a lot less than going buying a jiffy bag at the post office. So if you're going to sell a lot of stuff, make sure you go and buy in bulk ahead of time. And I then wrap that in brown paper. It just adds to that layer of protection, so that if you've got a jiffy bag, somebody might be able to pry that open, reseal it. But if you've got something with brown tape all over it, it's going to be pretty obvious if somebody's tried to go through it. And they won't necessarily have brown paper to go ahead and rewrap it if they do. So definitely go and check out the the wrapping options. I think that's really important. Do it securely. That's very, very important. Now, when you're actually posting it, I always recommend that you use a recorded delivery service. Now, of course, it's going to depend on what it is. If you're selling something that's just really dirt cheap, like if I've sold like a Peter Rabbit 50p coin for like £1.50 or something, I'm not really going to be sending that recorded delivery, because that will cost more than just the value of the coin. So you've got to always weigh up the kind of value of the coin and everything. But pretty much my advice would be to you to send everything by recorded delivery. It gives that peace of mind for you as the seller, because you can check whether or not something's been delivered. You can check who's signed for it as well, which I think is really, really important. However, you've got to kind of think about insurance, because if something goes missing or if it is damaged in the post on the way, then you've got to think about it being insured. Now, in the UK, signed for deliveries, first and second class signed for deliveries, they have an advertised cover level of £50. But from my experience, I've had one thing that was looking to go missing in the UK. It actually turned up eventually, but I went through, I tried to sort of put the claim through, and it was denied because it was deemed to be basically, bullion. And bullion is not covered under regular standard delivery. So you've got to always consider that in your mind, what will happen if you're the seller and that happens. Now, I've talked about things going missing in post before in different videos, and me as a person, I would always look to kind of basically honour those types of things if possible. So I take that risk into consideration, against the cost of using different services. But I would recommend that if you are selling things which are high value, when I sell things which are high value, I will always send them special delivery as best as possible, because that is a service which is insured for gold and silver. So that's definitely something to do. Now, there is another thing that you can do, which is actually meet in person and hand deliver something. I've actually bought stuff in person before, but I've not sold something in person before. So my advice, if you're going to be hand delivering something, would be obviously you need to be quite careful. If it's somebody who's completely brand new with no reputation, or you've never met before or never even spoke to before, then obviously that's something you need to be careful about. So I would say, maybe ask for somebody's ID ahead of time so that you know what they're going to look like. And if you've got a copy of their driving license, then you'll be able to know what their face looks like, so you know the person you're meeting is in fact the real person that you're meant to be meeting. Perhaps meet in a public place. Go to a cafe, go to a bank, go to, I don't know, just somewhere that's going to be a lot of people around, a pub or something. And also just be, maybe bring someone with you, bring a friend with you, just in case there's anything that might go down. Then at least you've got somebody there as a kind of a witness. And also it's important to have a witness, because if somebody says, oh, we met and you sold me these coins and I've checked them at home, they're all fake, then at least you've got somebody else there to kind of verify the whole situation with you as well. So yeah, that's it. That's basically all my top tips, guys. I think there's a lot in there, and I hope you guys have got something from it. It's going to be varying from situation to situation, person to person. So please do comment in this video, guys, if you think there's something in there that I said which doesn't tally up with what you think about selling your gold and silver. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please put a thumbs up on it, share it around on your social media. That would be very helpful indeed. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and please make sure that you like, share, comment and subscribe for more.